Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Hamilton, and welcome to Paradigm Shift and Educational Comedy. I'm taking point on this episode. This episode is doubling as a college assignment. And today we are going to be talking about my journey with social media and how social media has affected me, my interpersonal communication journey, as it were. And the main point that I want to get started with is primarily why I chose this project. This is more for classmates more than it is for the YouTube audience, but if you are here, welcome. And for the classmates that will be watching this later, also good to see you. So essentially, I chose to do this project on the internet and social media and how they affect me both positively and negatively, as well as other people in general. The reason I chose this topic is because social media always plays such an important part in my life, not just for business and school, but for the people that I interact with. And I just figured it was kind of finally time to really put all the puzzle pieces together from my previous journey and experience on the internet since 2011. It's been a really interesting journey. I've made a lot of good friends. A good friend of mine who runs Paradigm Shift in Educational Comedy, Dave Kelso, who's on the call with me right now. He is muted. I am taking charge on this episode just because it's a requirement for this personal improvement project that I'm discussing to you on. But he is the head guy of Paradigm Shift in Educational Comedy. He's been around since, well, I'd have to ask him. He is right here. Dave, how long have you been doing Paradigm Shift in Educational Comedy? Like, when did you start it?
Just give me 1 second and I'll answer that. I'm just doing something in the background right quick. Just give me 1 quick second.
Okay. Well, Dave will answer that momentarily. I know he's been at it for several years, though. PSEC, I'll just go over PSEC just really quick, kind of what it's about. He can go into more detail here in a few moments. Essentially what we do on Paradigm Shift in Educational Comedy is we talk about all various manner of subjects. We talk everything from politics to, obviously humor, which is in the name, and everything in between. We talk about technology, science, just the world in general, how it affects us, just the day-to-day. It just depends on what we're motivated to talk about, what we want to bring up. But I figured instead of doing a PowerPoint or doing some other form of standard presentation, I would present to you in this more real-time format.
Sorry, I didn't know I was going to get called upon so soon, and somebody had messaged me on Skype, actually. Interesting synchronicity, which is one of the other things we talk about, how synchronicities are coincidences, or shall we say coincidences, things which do coincide, but we don't always understand the, the everything behind it, and the reasoning. My friend Neil Gar, who we have had on Paradigm Shift in Educational Comedy before, so you can look all that up. He said, basically telling me hello, asking me how I am, and asking me if I still do the PSEC stuff, which obviously I do. And he said he was wondering if he could come on anytime soon to have a chat about 2018 and of course his favorite topic in the whole wide world, the noetic sciences. And he was saying that the synchronicity was he was about to message me on Facebook, and then there's a pop-up that came up at the exact same time saying I'm on Skype. So this is one of those coincidences where everything is just kind of coinciding. And he actually just messaged me saying that he's watching us right now, So hello, Neil. And if you didn't see it already, I just basically explained the synchronicity as we were talking about synchronicity and the Skype synchronicity and how yeah, everything just kind of becomes a synchronistic freaking echo chamber. That's how my life usually goes. I'm not really surprised. It is what it is, and that's how things always are. So yeah, I've been doing paradigm shift and educational comedy since 2011. Um, there is kind of an unofficial like 2010 short season that, shall we say, ended up canceled because originally it was me and my girlfriend at the time that had
But
started
for
up.
the audience, essentially, it's been 6 years,
Well,
somewhere
seven.
around, or almost, yeah, seven.
No, this is the seventh year. 2011 was the first year, 2012 the second year, 2013 the third year. So yeah, this is 2017. So this is the seventh year, and we're going to be going into 2018, which will be the eighth year. So in short,
Yeah,
we've been doing it for a while. Like you
yeah.
said, sometimes we have guests on for certain topics. I mean, obviously there's the PSEC crew. Me, you, Katarina, Kristen. My dad sometimes gets on. Katie, Paul. People like that. And of course, we've had guests such as Rebecca Jernigan and Neil Gar, of course, and Max Egan and Vinny Eastwood, and we've had Patrick,
But
on and so
anyway,
on, etc.
yeah. All that aside, I want to get more back into on course with the project.
Alrighty, going back into Muteland.
Anyway, yeah, for the viewing audience and for class members, that's something you can look up. All of that stuff is online. It is on YouTube. And if you are curious for some of the other various hangouts that have been done, that have been aired, those are all available. They're all online. They're all there and they're not going anywhere. I've been part of PSEC since 2014. That's good. My really nice skull candy. See, this is the beauty of real-time interaction. It can be sometimes, depending on how the day's been, it can be very ease and flow, or it can be just kind of a mix of whatever. And I'm okay with that. But anyway, back to my original point. I've been with PSEC since 2014, and how I got involved in PSEC and friendship with Dave Kelso is I was dealing with a very, very crazy family issue in my own physical realm of things, and it got very out of hand. And I just kind of, well, no, I didn't kind of, I did. I finally stood up to this family member in question and basically told them off. And there was some very crazy backlash over that legal backlash that did occur, and it ended up dissolving into nothing. And we just haven't spoken since, but that's okay because she's toxic personality in my environment anyway. But that's how I got involved with PSEC. It was a very crazy family event dealing with a narcissist, and really forced me to step into my own sovereignty. That's one of the many journeys or positive aspects that the internet and by extension social media has done for me. It's allowed me to step into my own sovereignty, to be myself, and to just be okay with all of the pauses and the mispronunciations that I can sometimes do on videos. It does happen. It's been a long day, so I am just, going with my own flow and own pace, unscripted here. So if I kind of stutter a little bit or, you know, uh, pause awkwardly, just bear with me here. I'm, doing this as I go along, but I will mention how my personal improvement project has affected me here in just a few short moments. So essentially, you guys know basically what I've chosen to do why I chose to do my project. And essentially going back to my initial point, the internet has been very influential on my life for the last 7 years, actually. 2011 was when I got my first computer and got hooked up to the internet. It's kind of synchronistic with PSEC and all of that. Synchronicities tend to happen quite often with us here at PSEC. We talk about that quite a bit. But the internet has been a real eye-opener for me. And just like any tool, it can be used responsibly or irresponsibly. And let's be honest, everybody's used it for both purposes. But more to the responsible aspects, I've discovered more about myself. I'm still in that process of learning how to be more confident, to be more okay with myself, and to just embrace who I am in terms of my own sovereignty and who I want to be. So essentially, I'll go into a little bit of background here with narcissism and some of the more negative effects of the internet. So I come from a very awkward family, and when I started out on the internet, I used to be very, very narcissistic. I used to be very insecure. Used to be one of those super hardcore, I'll just put a buzzword out there. I used to be one of those really super hardcore, typical, stereotypical type conservative conspiracy theorists out there who used to really rage at the machine. And really, that was my own insecurity just kind of lashing out. And I used the internet as just kind of an escape. A lot of my family members never really listened to me. I felt like I was ignored when I was younger. I felt like, nobody really cared what I had to say. So the internet was really kind of a means for me at the time to vent, to be able to get out there, to get my thoughts heard. It was a place where I could go to. And I think the internet in a lot of ways is that way for many people. And, going into the personal improvement project, and reading just kind of how people are on the internet, through flaming, like our interplay textbook talks about the art and practice of flaming. Let me go to it here. Where is it? I will find it. It is in here. But anyway, the interplay textbook, it is in chapter 1. It talks about the practice of flaming, which is essentially where people will go on message boards or IM chats and just essentially scream, obscenities, or, just rage out super hard and just throw their insecurities and psychological projections at other people. Well, I used to be that kind of person, so I know what those type of people tend to think. I can't read their mind, but I've been there. I know how that is, and I used to be very insecure in who I was. So, what a better place, no better place to go than to be anonymous and to just post all these various insulting, demeaning things towards other people and just kind of get some sort of rise out of it. Or just, do an internet sort of like saber rattling, just arguing with people for argument's sake, not really being productive or moving forward anywhere. Rather just arguing just to argue, just to hear yourself talk. I used to do that a lot. And I never felt like I was getting anywhere. I just felt more insecure. I felt like I was more deep buried in my own misery. I never felt like I was accomplishing anything. But for a more positive example of social media, I do use social media to keep an eye on my family, family members that I do care about. And obviously stay in touch with long distance friends that have become like family in and of themselves, by their own right, just because of how much they've helped me. Like Dave, he's helped me through hell and high water, pretty much. And I imagine who knows what we'll face in the far-fetched future. There's probably all kinds of crazy stuff out there that we'll probably endure and see. But internet in basic sense, I've used it besides being insecure, narcissistic in my past, I've used it to keep an eye on family, friends, graduations, deaths, marriages, births, all of the basic stuff that you tend to do. That's what I've used the internet for. Um, just to keep an eye on, keep tabs on people that I care about. Let's see. Kind of got a little script thing here. I'm just trying to be a little bit tired, so just bear with me here. Let's see. And also the more obvious, I've used the internet to celebrate success, hang out with friends, and talk about good things, bad things. It's all stuff that I've done on the internet's just really affected me in so many ways. It's really hard to put into words. I can write about it all day, but to actually put it into words and sit here and talk about it in a speech, that's a little bit different, and especially one that's just kind of spur of the moment. But anyway, I am going to hand it over to Dave for a minute, and he can kind of give some compare and contrast here just for his journey and just kind of what he's seen and how the internet's affected him. Just kind of a short little thing on how he's been affected positively and negatively by the internet and social media by extension, and then we'll just continue on with this conversation. So go ahead.
Alrighty, well, I can definitely relate on everything you said there, especially when it comes to the whole flame wars and things like that. I'm not going to go into a big full detailed history about all this, but in as brief of terms as I could possibly say, one of the things that I was originally into as far as online stuff is something called the BBS scene, which does still exist. For those who don't really know what it is, basically it's a type of server that you can run, and it has message boards and games and files and all the basic stuff that you would expect on your average website, but it gives a lot more power to what type of services and stuff you can run, because it's not just the web. The internet isn't just the web, and there's all sorts of shall we say protocols that normally would be reserved for the corporate level of things. So this kind of gives that kind of corporate level power and capability to the average individual, so that they can have fun and play with that. And though there are free and open source softwares and all that, there's also the pay software too. But needless to say, it's been a big thing in the history of the internet itself. Most people don't know about it, and its primary premise was creativity. Creativity, innovation, and invention, and working together, and community spirit, and so on and so forth. One of many of the big websites to come out of the BBS scene has been DeviantArt, which I've been an active member on for a long time, and so is Richard. As a matter of fact, I met Richard through DeviantArt, and even though DeviantArt doesn't run a BBS server per se, and they never have, people that are from the BBS scene originally started DeviantArt. But needless to say, the focus was creativity and innovation and all that, and communication. And it had slash has its own social media aspect in its own right, called EchoMail. And besides running Malkavia BBS, I also ran an EchoMail network called ExpressItNet. and I created that kind of out of angst against FidoNet, FIDONET, which is the largest echo mail network on the planet, which we jokingly referred to as FidoNet, FIGHT-O-net, because of all of the network politics and narcissism and egotistical bullshit. And I guess that was kind of a reflection of all the insecurities inside of myself that I wasn't willing to face at the time. So similarly to Richard, I was kind of raging against the system, as it were. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to start ExpressNet, rah rah, and and for a while we even had in the Echo Mail network we had a flame war message area, because in the attempt to try to take any flaming stuff that was going on in any of the other areas and kind of quarantine it to one area, but that really ended up just kind of backfiring. It did the opposite of what I was intending, and it actually encouraged more flaming than it discouraged. And it was just a mess. And I eventually left the scene because the world just started becoming an increasingly more chaotic and contrasty place. And of course, people have their own lives and families and this and that, and the bad economy and just all this other stuff that really started distracting them. So mostly the majority of what's left in the current scene is the people are very talented, but there's still all this narcissistic egotism that's
Hey, Dave.
running rampant. Yeah. Needless to say, it's a similar story to Rich. And when I exited the BBS scene and moved into things like DeviantArt and YouTube and so on and so forth, and met people like Richard and Katarina and so on, I started to learn what's more important about life.
I just wanted to add something. I remember when I first did my first PSEC hangout with you. That was in 2014. I can't remember if that was December Strangeness.
No, it wasn't. It was
it wasn't.
It was red light. It was red light, green light. Remember?
That's right. Yeah, but you remember how going into insecurity and all that stuff. You remember how paranoid I used to be about my name being like associated with anything? I used to be so paranoid about that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I don't want, it was just one of those things, based out of narcissism. And that also reminds me, like I was doing research in my midterm paper, and it wasn't a direct correlation, but it like really hit home. It wasn't surprising, but at the same time, it was cool to see the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
According to NCBI and Psychology Today, I can pull the numbers up directly, actually. Let me pull that up really quick. Yeah, so according to ncbi.gov, which I will also give the full name of that, it would be NCBI. Where is it? Got a whole slew of information here. Come on, buddy. Where are you? I'll find you. Oh boy. There it is. National Center for Biotechnology Information. That's the name of, and that's the name. So according to the National Center of Biotechnology Information, researchers examined 200 profiles. 43.5% of them were female with a mean age of 20 years old, so around my age. And 2.5% of them met the criteria for manic depressive episodes. And researchers also found that 25% of profiles displayed depressive symptoms. And interestingly enough, in correlation, I was reading a Psychology Today article called "Is Facebook Really a Playground for Narcissists?" And a gal by the name of This is the beauty of real-time interaction, because you get to see me just for who I am and all of those pauses. It's probably one of the most chill presentations I've ever done, but that's okay. Okay, where are you? Oh, I'll just look at the actual article itself. Bloody A. That way I can give you the full name, so that way all you classmates can go look that up if you're so interested in doing so. Oh, come on, technology, cooperate with me here. There we go. Okay, where is it? Catalina Toma, Dr. Catalina Toma. Okay, so that's her full name. And according to her research, well, to me, this is kind of like saying, okay, the sky's blue, the grass is green. Not surprising, but it's good to see these numbers and to see some official information on it. She basically was saying that sites like Facebook are havens for narcissists. And I also want to go into page 30 here in my textbook in the media clip area about the social network. And it was basically a movie that they did about Mark Zuckerberg. And of course, there's all of these online memes about Mark Zuckerberg, the man who's not human, who's trying to understand what it means to be human. And I personally find those kind of funny just because he's a jerk. He acts like a jerk. But we all use Facebook. I'm not knocking the platform. I use it. I'm guilty, but I can still have an opinion about the guy who started it. I don't think he's a nice guy at all. He's arrogant, and I think he's full of himself, but that's totally another discussion for another time. But anyway, in the textbook, it says on page 30, in this character study, Facebook creator Mark Zuckerberg is played by Jesse Eisenberg, is portrayed as a genius at computer programming and meeting the needs of the marketplace. At the same time, he is a disaster in the domain of personal relationships. So I find it kind of funny that, here's this, but it makes so much sense when you put all the pieces together. So you have this guy who's terrible with interpersonal relationships, doesn't know how to relate to anybody, and he creates this website that, through correlation and discernment, here's all these manic depressive people, who have narcissistic viewpoints and are very insecure. And I know because there was a time in my life where I was both depressed and both very narcissistic. So I can say from my own personal experience that these two things do correlate. So here's this perfect social media platform where all these narcissists just flock to. And even nowadays online, I mean, I look at the geopolitical sphere, I look at all these groups like Antifa or, people in the truth movement or conservatives or liberals or whatever, political spectrum, white supremacists, whatever political spectrum or whatever faction you want to put them in. And they all act like narcissists. I mean, you watch the videos, like that one gal that was, screaming on social media after Hillary Clinton lost the election, talking how about she wanted to kill herself. I think I need an ambulance. Tell me, it's so sad to see people like that, to see all of these narcissists. I can't help but have just complete compassion for these people. Not to say that I have to agree with what they're doing or like what they're doing or even like them as individuals, but I still recognize that there's a real problem in the world today. But going into Facebook thrives on narcissistic tendencies. It just absolutely does. It thrives on narcissistic tendencies. Like, it's totally designed to be self-centered from the ground up. It's like coded to be self-centered. It's coded to be self-absorbing. One of the videos I just watched last week, I'll pull that up. It was a TEDx talk by Roy Verato from week 9. he was sitting there talking about, the different domains of friendship, friendship of virtue, friendship of pleasure. Uh, yes, Dave, you put your hand up.
I just I just wanted to say it. Like the differences between, say, Facebook and DeviantArt are kind of like the differences between Microsoft Windows and Linux, to where like Linux is a useful tool that is easy to learn, whereas Windows is more designed to babysit you and do everything for you and encourage this attitude of entitlement, me, my, gimme, the world owes me everything. Whereas Linux is designed for critical thinking, to where you figure out how to use it and you customize it to the way you want it. So like Facebook versus DeviantArt, you've got DeviantArt that came out of the BBS scene, which was originally about creativity and cooperation and community, and then you've got Facebook that like has come from this Hitler supporting, like literally, like Mark Zuckerberg is literally on record as a Hitler supporter. It's actually kind of creepy, more than just a little, but it totally makes the point that there are different applications and platforms that are literally coded narcissistically, and then there's others that aren't. So even the softwares that we use emulate the human designers of those softwares, because it's humans that created it. So of course Facebook is a very narcissistic software. It really is.
Yeah. 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 I mean, as Roy Veruto, as I was just about to say, Roy Veruto was talking about the different types of friendship, and he quoted Aristotle on the different types and virtues and all of that of friendship. And, another thing that he really got into was, social media usage, those people who disconnect from things going on around them. Now, mind you, I'm a social media nut. I'm an internet nut, and I'm constantly learning things about technology. I'm not perfect. I don't know the tenth of what I could possibly know about technology, and you know, Dave's still teaching me a lot, and even when Dave's taught me everything he knows, me and him will still have tons to learn, because technology is a constantly advancing field. Just when you think you've learned about everything there is, there's a whole bunch of new generation tech that comes out and you're learning all over again. But anyway, Roy Baruto was talking about, how people have this tendency to use Facebook just to disconnect from, what's going on around them, from reality, and, just kind of getting into their own world, as it were. It's all about you on Facebook. And, that kind of really hit home with me, and really kind of just further pointed out what I was talking about in some of my research on how Facebook is really marketed around narcissism, because you see so many people who are uploading selfies and making duck faces, and, taking pictures of themselves in the audience, instead of, doing things like, I don't know, interacting with people around them, getting to know people, shaking people's hands, getting to know new people, and I've been guilty of it. I've slumped into Facebook, because I just want to hide from reality. I think everybody's guilty of doing that. We've all done it, at one point or another. But especially the other day, yes, Dave?
I just wanted to say, at least Facebook Live is designed based around having a group conversation, and is not all like selfie driven, because like as you saw in one of Katarina's last Facebook Live sessions that you were participating in, it was a
Mhm.
conversation between her and the people watching. It wasn't just take a selfie and, oh, look at me.
Right. And I mean, yeah, no, there's responsible use of social media, and then there's, irresponsible self-destructive use of social media. It's like what we've talked about with the definition of or, with the metaphor of a hammer. You can use it to build a house, or you can use it to blow your own kneecaps out. You choose. Either way, it's a piece of steel with a handle. You can pound nails or you can really screw yourself up with it. You decide what you do with the hammer, but the hammer is still just a hammer. And at the end of the day, that's what Facebook is. It's a hammer. It's a tool. It can be used responsibly. It can be used irresponsibly, but still there is some psychology around Facebook. I mean, it's like, when I look at it from a deeper introspective standpoint, I really look at it and it's like you can almost say it is marketing on narcissism. People tend to be, and that's not everybody, but people tend to be self-absorbed, just totally, absorbed into their own world, and they're all that matters, and everybody else can, go away and die. That's the attitude, the egotistical, the inner ego attitude, the false ego attitude, the, me, 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 screw everybody else. But let me switch. I'm going to have to mute this one really quick and then show the other one, because that's the only way I'm going to be able to do it on my PC. Unmuted. Camera. That's different camera there. That's the reason I'm using my phone, is because this camera sucks.
Just letting you know that you are seen and you are heard. All is well technologically.
What was that, Dave?
I said, just letting you know, you are both seen and heard. All is well technologically.
Cool. I got two different cameras here, so I'm like trying to figure out which camera I'm, I got screen overload over here. So
for those of you who don't already know, he's trying to go into screen share mode, which he cannot do on the cell phone. That's what's going on here.
Yeah, and my cell phone camera has a better camera than my desktop camera, as you can clearly see by the quality. Screen 2, share. Okay, there we go. So there is, well, here it is. It's essentially a screenshot that I saw a couple weeks back. I was logging on Facebook like I normally do, and it's there. Here's this, the first thing on your timeline. Richard, your friends have loved your post 350 times. It's like, okay, cool, but do I really care that people hit a button 350 times on my posts? No. Cool, but just this screenshot right here is an example of the narcissism, the self-centered BS that Facebook capitalizes on, and so many people are gullible for it, myself included. I've fallen into that trap, and it's just, it just is what it is. But still, it's just one of those things. By the way, Dave, how are we doing for time on the episode?
I didn't really pay attention to the exact time we started, so I really have no idea. I didn't know I was supposed to keep track. I know we started at 11 something my time zone, and it is now almost 1 a.m. my time zone. So I think maybe we started at early 12s. I don't know, because remember I had that little computer glitch where I was coming in sounding like a chipmunk, and then I had to reboot and all that. So
right.
I wasn't really paying perfect, attention to the time. So I really don't have the answer to that question.
Okay. Well, I guess it is what it is. Hopefully it'll be okay. I wanted to, but whatever. I'll just keep moving. We'll get through the rest of it, and then we'll end it here not too long from now. So anyway, yeah, this is basically just kind of pointing out.
I just realized I could track it back to my conversation with Neil Neil Gar. Actually, When we had shortly after we had just started the live stream, it says 12:08 a.m. Where or no, I'm sorry, not 12:08, 12:23. My bad. 12:23 a.m. So we started somewhere between 12:15 and 12:20, which means in another 15 minutes, or no, wait, in another 15 to 20 minutes, something like that. It'll be the 1 hour mark, something like that. Close enough.
Okay. Yeah, because I kind of want to keep this short enough that it's not going to be, so that way we're not droning on and on and on, and people are like, oh my God, when are they going to shut up?
Okay, so yeah, roughly in about 20 minutes, give or take, it'll be the 1 hour mark, roughly. So.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just go for another 20 and then we'll call it good, because I don't want to have the professor sitting there going, oh my God.
All right, yeah, I understand. So on that note, continue.
So anyway, yeah, this post is just essentially pointing out, just a perfect from the horse's mouth, as it were, screenshot of the total arrogance that Facebook, shoves in your face. And, Facebook is just totally tailored to that, pay attention to yourself and only yourself sort of attitude. And mind you, it's healthy to focus on yourself and give yourself some love, but not to the level of just total, complete self absorption. But anyway, moving on from that, I'm going to stop screen sharing. Stop sharing, stop sharing, stop sharing, stop sharing. Why are you not stop sharing? What the heck? Still screen sharing. Why is that?
Well, while you're figuring that out, I'll just say one thing. People tend to get so self-centered, not just with social media. Social media has just, in that negative way, made it worse for people. But and like what you're saying about raging against against the system, and people do that to outlet their frustrations. But people forget the old quote of evil only triumphs when good people do nothing. So, like, if everyone is self-absorbed, of course you're going to have corporations screwing people over, and governments doing crazy stuff, and this, that, and the other. And people need to stop blaming corporations, stop blaming government, stop blaming the devil, stop blaming the Illuminati, stop blaming whatever, and see that they are cooperative components to their situation, and that all the people that they have a problem with, that are symptoms of the problem, they're not the causes, they're symptoms. All those people have been able to do what they do because the people have let them. I mean, look at Hitler. What could some silly guy with a mustache have possibly done on his own? It's because the people in Germany at the time were so stuck in narrow-minded thinking, and they thought it was, in modern terms, they thought it was conspiracy theory nonsense that some social justice warrior idiot could possibly rise to power, and because they were willfully ignorant, ignore ants, the act of ignoring, Hitler happened. And so people need to take personal responsibility and realize that it's the collective Stockholm syndrome, the collective narcissism, that me, give me, my entitlement attitude, which has good people allowing evil to triumph. So we all need to kind of take personal responsibility for our part in that, because we're all cooperative components of the situations we find ourselves in, and stop playing the blame game. Governments, corporations, all that, they're just symptoms. They are the cough, they are not the cold. And we need to pull our heads out of our butts and stop being whiny entitled brats, and be willing to take personal responsibility. That's not about fault or blame. That's just taking some personal frickin' responsibility. That's all. And making it so that adulthood is no longer an extended state of adolescence, which is what adulthood has become, and it's freaking ridiculous.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I just, and that's kind of one thing that this project has really helped bring together for me personally. It's just like, we all have that inner toddler inside of us that wants to stomp its feet and clap its hands and say, I want it my own way. I want it, I want it, I want it, and cries and whines and moans and all of that stuff. And, I that's really kind of been the beauty of the internet. It's been a mirror, as it were. It's pointed out my own uh, fallacies in my own thinking. It's pointed out my own uh, illogical processes, and it's been a very useful tool that has helped to improve my own physical life. The internet is probably one of the greatest byproducts of the space age that we could ever ask for. I mean, it really is. The internet brings the world together. It brings people together. It brings common interests, common nationalities, people of different nationalities. I mentioned this in one of my journals, but I think it's really awesome to bring up. I remember that one time we were on Skype, me and you, and we were talking with DJ Chops out of the Gambia. And he was, talking to us about, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was talking to us about, his country and just kind of how things are going, the weather and all of that stuff. And it was like 3 a.m. here or whatever. It was like really late at night. Might have been during the middle of the day. I don't remember, but I know it was super early morning in Gambia where he was, and we were talking, and here comes the old imam on the prayer tower, and they start, you hear the Muslim call a prayer in the background, and it's just kind of like, whoa, talk about a different, totally different environment, something totally foreign to how you do things normally, and here you are having this really cool conversation with somebody all the way around the globe, who's totally different, has totally different cultural values, different cultural norms, different expectations on life and outlook. And here you are having this neat conversation with an interesting person, So the internet's been really a means for me to open my eyes and just kind of see the world. It's all in how you use it. And this project's really kind of opened my eyes to the deeper psychology and the kind of the backgrounds and the in-betweens of social media, the narcissism, the ugliness that ensues online, and the good aspects, the unifying things, the good byproducts of strife, without bad, you can't really contrast the good. And the internet's been and social media have been very rewarding in what they've done for me personally. And often I'm so busy in my day to day that social media is really how I keep track of what's going on around me. It's that level of importance of a tool for me. Emails to keep an eye on school. I just, the internet is just kind of the central usage of my everyday, and I think it is for everybody nowadays. We're in a digital age, and people may say, well, I don't use social media that much. And it's like, well, you still use the internet. I mean, you're using it to stream movies on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime Video. If you're into torrents, you're downloading BitTorrents. Even if you're not using it for any of the social aspects, you're still going to use it for ridiculous number of other uses. Skype calls if you're talking to a long person relative. Just multitude of uses. Go ahead, Dave.
When it comes to learning from the contrast, I've noticed that, like on Star Wars, Princess Leia said to Governor Tarkin, the more you tighten your grip, the more star systems slip through your fingers. And evil kind of, once it hits a certain point, tends to fold in on itself. And in one of my recent short Facebook posts, I said, the systems we dislike are symptoms, not causes. This is why fighting the system doesn't cure problems any more than fighting the cough will cure the cold. We need to be willing to look at the causes. That knowledge is triggering, offensive, terrifying, uneasy. It is understandable why people react to it as if a rattlesnake was being thrown into their face. Understandable why willful ignorance is the choice of people who are not yet fed up enough, not yet sick enough, not yet desperate enough. And I've noticed that that people are starting, more quickly than slowly now, starting to become fed up enough, sick enough, desperate enough on all these different levels. I mean, even today, my dad when he got back home from shopping, he was telling me briefly about some new law they passed for the main roads, that if there's more than 2 inches of snow, they can steal your car, they can tow and impound your car and charge you to get it out. And if that wasn't bad enough, he said that it's been reported that even today, I mean, there's been no snow today at all, but yet these tow trucks were out there towing cars away for being in violation of the parking while there is snow over 2 inches ordinance, while there was no snow on the ground at all. So, there's been a lot of ridiculous scumbaggery like that happening in all sorts of cities, Chicago included. I mean, I could make an episode about that in and of itself. And it just goes to show the more it gets personal for people right up in their face, then they can no longer say, "Oh, that's just a crazy
But
conspiracy."
that's the beauty of the internet. It brings that stuff that in the past we used to ignore, and it pushes it right into your face.
Yeah.
So much of the news anymore is so instantaneous, like you're right on top of it. Like on my phone, when the Las Vegas thing happened, big Las Vegas shooting, I knew about it within like 30 seconds of it. And not only that, I saw, I had a scanner app on my phone that was like tying into all of that. And, 30,000 people were listening to the Las Vegas Police Department,
Well, that's a
and
good point of how it's just it's triggering the evil ones, the powers that be, whatever anyone wants to call them, because they're just narcissists on crack, triggering them to act even more narcissistic towards us, which then it gets deeply personal for people, and then people are forced to realize, oh wow, this isn't just a conspiracy theory, because here I am. I mean, all the people that survived the Vegas shooting, and they saw what really happened. They saw the multiple shooters, and then they saw how.
well, I want to kind of avoid
Okay, well,
any,
the point is,
you
it's
know,
it's getting personal for people, whether it's
right.
whether it's Orwellian stupid ordinances about street parking or the real facts about people involved in shootings or whatever. It's starting to get deeply personal and in their face. And that's kind of the beauty of the tightening of tyranny these days. And if it weren't for the information age, if it weren't for social media, if it weren't for all of this, then tyranny would still be able to lock people more into fear and under that classic Machiavellian control. But now, because of social media, the pressure is so kicked up that it's actually causing tyranny to fold in on itself, and the end result of that is good things, is positive things, is people coming together, and people finally learning how to use social media as a tool instead of as a narcissistic me.
Overall, the darkness before the dawn, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, and
10
going
minutes,
back into
10 minutes, by the way.
okay, yeah, this is perfect because then we'll be able to. I'm just about ready to give kind of closing salutations and all of that stuff. Essentially, on a more personal note, besides the collective, media overload. I mean, the media overload has its good points. I mean, the bombarding of media content, as it were, in people's faces has that amazing side of it, like where it's instantaneous. There's no time to bend narratives. There's no time to steer people in one direction or another. There's just all of this information, and it really puts the power of the press into people's hands more than it ever has. What was that other video that the other guy that I want to mention on the power of the press? It was a video I know what I can do. I need my Skype tab here. Speaking of information overload, here's a real example. Here I am with my 3 screens, and information overload. Howard Rheingold in the TED Talk. I did share that video with you, Dave. I suggest you do watch it. It's a great video. But anyway, Howard Rheingold was basically talking about how the internet is basically the next great revolution in terms of putting the printing press into people's hands, and it really is. It's it's one of the greatest inventions that probably has ever come and ever will be. It's brought humanity together in more ways than the last numerous number of recent inventions, and it really gives us the personal initiative and responsibility to, decide for ourselves and sift through information. As where in the past you didn't really have that. You had newspapers, you had TV, radio. But anyway, besides all of that, going into my personal experience, there is the downside of media overload where it's like it affects your listening, and it goes into that narcissistic aspect. I used to be a terror, and sometimes I can be a pretty crappy listener, especially if I'm overloaded with college, like I have been lately. Or the other night, me and Dave we were discussing, we were online with another female friend of ours, Katerina, and we were talking about something. It was, I don't remember what it was, but we were talking about something, and Dave was talking about a point with me that he was trying to get me to look at, and here I am, just droning on about something else that that David had already just kind of buried, like, yeah, whatever, it is stupid. But here I am continuing to go on and on and on and on, like, no, you are doing this. And then Dave's like, Rich, you need to shut up and stop. Just stop talking. Listen to what I'm trying to tell you. And then I finally stopped and I listened, and Dave was on the same page with me partially, but also trying to put another point in my face, like, okay, you can't just dominate the narrative and say that what I'm saying is what you think I'm saying. You're not a mind reader, nor am I, and you know, you've got to stop and listen. So I have been dealing with that malware. That malware does come out of my family. And if you want to know where I got the term malware from, refer to Larkin Rose, Removing Mental Malware. Great video, another discussion altogether. But anyway, I have the mental malware
You
in my mind, or the mental baggage, as it were.
you can search
Yes.
you can search this YouTube channel for that video for anybody watching. Just do a search on my channel for Removing Mental Malware, and you will find it like immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. It is up there. Removing Mental Malware by Larkin Rose. It is a PSEC video. That is true. But anyway, my mental malware on the whole subject, or mental baggage, if you want to put it into another term, mental fog, noise, or whatever you want to call it, is essentially I've come from a family that has been totally addicted to that domination of domination of discussion, overpowering the other person, forcing them into silence, feeling justified. That's the kind of family I've come from. And some of my family members even still are very, very, very bad at that, and they don't know how to listen. They don't know how to pay attention. They're totally justified in their viewpoints. And I've noticed that with a lot of people. I'm guilty of that. I've been guilty of that. And who knows, something might come up, wise that I don't see that somebody else does see. And, that's mental malware that is hidden to me, but is observable to somebody else. In the Johari window type of perspective, something that I don't see, but another person sees, and that's where I come from that. So, and especially with the internet in the early years fueled that narcissistic kind of overload of information, and kind of just made me an even crappier listener than I already was. But again, that was out of, the internet is just a mirror. It's only playing merely off of what you already are, or that which you already are. It's not making you anything better or worse. It's just merely bringing out the pleasant and unpleasant aspects of you. Yes.
Reminds me of that old satirical quote. I don't know who wrote it, but the quote is, "To err is human, but to really screw things up, you need a computer."
Yeah. 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 But overall, my screwed up family dynamic that I have had in the past has really brought a lot of those physical insecurities online. It caused me to manifest those, psychologically project on other people. In the past, I used to do that. I don't do that anymore. I view things in a very straightforward manner. I just observe other people, and I also observe myself, and I feel that if I'm going to do something, I'd regret, I walk away rather than do something dumb, because it's text. It's text on a screen. It's not going to affect you. And that's essentially, the extra psychology is essentially really where this personal improvement project has put the pieces together, and really just brought everything together. It's really just been kind of a culmination of just learning the extra nitty-gritty details of, the psychology behind what I kind of sort of had an understanding of, but it's an ability to put all that together. And I'm just going to say this after all of that: if you guys are still listening, I thank you so much. Here I am jabbering on, but overall, this project has highlighted all of the things in my journey that really needed to be, that could go. Let me reword that. This project has really highlighted all of those parts of the journey that I've been on and will continue to be on. And overall, it boils down to, this journey doesn't end with the project. Personal improvement project is just more or less a reflection piece for me. This journey isn't going to end. It's something that I'm going to continue to do, and it's something that I'm going to continue to strive to improve. Life is all about learning. It's a never-ending journey. You don't reach one area and then that's it, you're done. It's like, no, it's a continuing journey. I'm a human being. I'm not perfect, but it doesn't mean I can't strive to be a better person, and to be the best that I can be, and to be surrounded by people of equal integrity and equal self-worth, and we can't support each other. But anyway, we're getting close to time.
We are beyond your desired cutoff time.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
but I'm not sure if you saw it. But yeah, we are now beyond that. Is there anything else you want to say in closing?
No. I was just about to say, yeah, we'll wrap this up right now. So
okay. Then I will just say one thing in closing. People think that doing good is about avoiding drama and avoiding the bad and avoiding this and that. Well, really, doing good is about all in how you confront it and deal with it and shift it and change it. Shunning the dark is the darkest thing you can do, and viewing the negative as a positive opportunity for positive change is really the most positive thing you can do. So if you want to convert your self-centeredness into a positive thing, convert it into self-improvement and being the best person that you can be. Ask yourself, really, what kind of person do you want to be, and strive for that. And don't judge the trial and error process as bad or negative or shameful or you having failed, because you know what? Winners fail until they succeed. Whereas losers give up. So don't give up. Don't be too hard on yourself during your own shifts, and just go with the flow, decide who it is you want to be, and strive to be that and be the best you can be, because the only person you can change is you. You can't force somebody else to be your idea of who you think they should be. You can only be an inspiration to others. You can only be that ripple cast to the center of the pond, and that stone cast to the center of the pond making the ripples, and people will either take the inspiration or they won't. But you might be surprised at how many people do, and you won't be able to see all your ripples, so don't let that bother you. Just know that you are making them. So we will see you all next time on the next episode of Paradigm Shift in Educational Comedy. Thank you to Richard's classmates for watching. Thank you to the professor for watching, and thank you for all of my usual subscribers for watching. Chatelet, praise Keck, peace out. Question everything, believe nothing, be the change you want to create, and whatever positive affirmations you want to make. Just make sure that you walk the walk and you're not just talking the talk. Otherwise, it's all lip service and virtue signaling. Don't do that.
Pretty much. Anyway, everybody have a great night or great day or whenever the heck you're watching this. And thank you again for sticking around if you have stuck around this far.
Yep. Peace out later, people.